engine similar to that used last year when the factory took the South African Rally Championship. Fully developed, the power plant should produce some 285 brake horsepower. The gearbox is a 6-speed cross-track unit with sequential shift, with disc brakes all round.
We're spoilt with the large horsepowers of the Audis, and we're down now to probably less than half that power. The car is naturally smaller, got to get used to it. The handling is different, it's a front-wheel drive, and we're used to four-wheel drive. Yeah, it's a different ball game altogether, but with the previous Group N experience, I think I can slot in well. The sequential shift on the gearbox, it's very nice. It's probably the best gearbox I've ever driven with. Moving the gear lever down towards the dashboard, going up to 6th gear, and moving it back in clicks, coming back to 1st gear. It's a very quick shift, and I think you'll go far to beat something like that. It's similar technology used in the Formula 1 cars. The surprises we have is that the car looks very good, and having been built in Uitenhage, I think rolling out here and everything going well, and the times that we're doing are competitive. I think that's a feather in the cap of Andre van der Walt and his team.
Many hours have been spent putting together a package that could beat the likes of Opel and BMW, and the effort was rewarded with some very competitive times put up by Moss. The SATCAR rules don't allow any changes to the outward appearance of the cars, but under the surface, things are totally different from the standard saloon. Brakes are 350mm ventilated discs with twin-pot calipers in the front and 280mm solid discs in the rear. A Bosch Motronic engine management and fuel injection system is used to extract more horses from the engine. After Terry Moss's successful initial test session, the car was ready for Chris Aberdeen. This is the first time the car had been driven in anger, and several minor adjustments had to be made. The suspension system consists of McPherson struts with Coney shock absorbers in the front and a lightweight swing axle setup in the rear. Aberdeen and Moss have been the team to beat in the Westbank Modified Touring Car Championship this year, and they would dearly like to be in the same position in the Stanek SATCAR Series next year.
It's got a sequential gearbox, 6-speed sequential gearbox, which works fantastically. It changes gears very quickly, and it's very positive, and it's I think it'll make a big difference to the competitiveness of the car. I think we've been very spoilt with the Audis. It's a wonderful car to drive. Must be probably one of the finest saloon cars, racing cars in the world to drive. So the Jetta is obviously has less power, but you know, I think it'll be competitive and it'll be a rewarding car to drive because I'm sure we'll be able to win in it. Both of us are happy with the car. Still needs a little work, but we've got 2 months before the first race.
If everything goes according to plan, the car should make their debut at the first Kyalami meeting on the 29th of January next year. Having developed and fine-tuned the 1-engine Jetta, the task of setting up the second car should be easier. It is remarkable that the Volkswagen Motorsport team have been able to build the car in the relatively short time of about 10 months, especially since they are not in the enviable position of some other manufacturers who could import race-ready cars from overseas. Motorsport engineer Mike Barnard looked on as Aberdeen brings the car into the pits. Aberdeen and Moss have proven an effective testing and development team, giving the engineers and technicians valuable and accurate feedback on the performance of the car on the track. Tyre temperatures are measured to determine the effect of the suspension setup, and different springs are available to fine-tune the suspension even further. It is a known fact that races are won or lost through the way in which a racing car handles through the corners, and lots of time is spent on perfecting suspension settings.
For a locally produced car, I think what we have seen today and previous little test sessions we've had, we've got a great car with a great future.
And Terry Moss throws down the gauntlet.
For the Opels, I think after all our testing towards the end of this year, I think Briggsy and his mate there will have to sort of watch the mirrors. We'll either be passing, and I'm sure there'll be lots of room to pass.